Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
All right.
Would you start from the beginning?
Yeah.
I don't think I could keep up the attitude for that long, man. It's wearing me out, actually. But, you know, I mean, listen, I realized today, man, I got to, you know, well, I'm not using force and I'm not saying I'm doing it, but the mountain has to be moved. The mountain has to be moved. Okay? And you know what I'm talking about. The mountain has to be moved. All right? So, I mean, we just have to open our eyes and see that where we're at is not where we need to be. It's okay. It's where we're at. And it's exactly the way it's supposed to be right now, but it's not the way it's supposed to be down the road because we are talking about it. That's why. That's how I know it's right. Okay. So, guys, this is what we do, is we just restore a better, more optimal energetic value for the human body. Okay? And if you look in like energetic healing and stuff, spiritual things, there's a energetic energy that runs through like the third eye, okay, and down through the brainstem and down through the spinal column. It's called your Kundalini energy. It's the energy that we receive from universal intelligence. So when that system is breaking down, it's a problem. But it's not the spine that needs to be pushed. It's the myofascial system that needs to be released in a certain way based on the postural wave on every single patient. Okay? And that is the purpose of my experience in having a conversation with you tonight, is how do we do that as well as possible as long as we keep looking at the whole human body as a unit. Because that's what it is. It's not a bone out of place. There's 205 bones. And you could put any one of them on your nightstand and you'll wake up in the morning and they will still be there. They will not move themselves. We got to move the mountain. Okay? All right. So we started looking at how this whole thing starts. And we need a new look at it. Can't just look at this saying, oh, that's a PRS and that's a high atlas and the plane line's X and it's rotated Y. Okay? You can't just say, well, I've got a posture measuring device and I got 12 pounds on this side and a twist of that over there. That's not good enough either. So we got to start looking at this whole thing and start having a conversation, and that's what we're going to do. So how's this whole thing started? Obviously it has to start with some trauma, and it damages the support system of the body. How do we know? Look at your patient. You have a misalignment, you have trauma. And the whole myofascial envelope that supports this thing gets damaged. How do we know? Because look at the soft tissue between here. It's concave. It's caved in. And you can look at the skeletal system and see it. The bones are only over there because the myofascial system has been damaged. The only reason. It's pretty clear. Okay? And then what happens is we have this trauma, so the body's smart. It says, hey, man, turn on the righting reflex. Okay? And if you look, what does it do? It pulls the head. The righting reflex is pulling the head over the body. So if you're on here for the first time, I've just told you that the upper cervical area is a compensation. Okay? And it's an integral part of the flow of understanding, and the compensation has to be addressed. But guess what? So does the trauma. So does the compensation. Okay? And guess what happens? Okay? So does the collapse from gravity over time. So let's just back up. All these things, all these three components have to be addressed. So we have this trauma, and the neurology says put the head up on center. And we see plenty of patients where the head is even close to center. Why? Because it's had multiple trauma. And maybe the compensatory muscle and myofascial system has been damaged. Maybe the neurology has been damaged. Okay? But the body, if it's working normally and it has one trauma, it takes the head and it activates the upper cervical area and pulls the head over. So if you got knocked off to the right, these muscles on the left would activate and pull you over. Very simple. Where do they pull you from? The place where patients feel them, where the muscle attachment is. What's a muscle attachment? High up top. Pick one, the mastoid process. Pick another one, C1. Pick another one, the whole back of the occiput. And there's techniques that have looked at every single one of those places. Guess where there's another one? C5. Guess when there's more? C7. Guess where there's more? At the shoulder. Guess where there's more? At the scapula. Guess where there's smaller ones along the TPs and the spinuses here for smaller motions. Where's big anchors down here? Down the sacrum. So we have this tension that is in the system from this collapse, the body's response, okay, neurologically, and then it's collapse over time. There's about 2,000 pounds that sit on the head, okay? The human body cannot support that. Look at grandma. She's never taller at 90 than she was at 15. No one on the planet, 100% of the time, guaranteed. Can't say that in anything else in healthcare. Gravity will squash you. But cigarettes may not kill you. Okay? So, now we have a flow chart that we actually can look at this thing and say, hey, guess what? This thing got traumatized. This thing is compensating a certain way. And where is all this stuff? So the whole system is in tension. And we want to say, okay, we understand how it happened. It got knocked off center. It compensated and collapsed. Well, guess what? We need to start releasing the tension that's in it, all these short things, releasing it, that we can see on the outside. And how do we do that? We start with understanding this tension. Okay, so I want to start to you, before we measure it, I want to give you some information on tension. So this whole thing's in tension. Okay, look at it. It's in tension everywhere. Short, short, short. Muscle shortening make muscle shortening, okay? Muscle shortening, okay, is the deal. Okay, muscles don't get long, they get short. So when a muscle gets short over here, it gets long and pulled on over there. Simple. Okay, so if we release what's short, we're good to go. Okay, so chiropractic, if the body is tensigral and it's like a balloon, guess what we've been doing? All of us. I don't care if you're adjusting an ankle, okay? If you're adjusting somebody's ankle, you are pushing into this balloon. And when you put energy into that balloon, guess what happens, my friends? It exerts energy on the inside, and the energy is received everywhere. So we can have places that are broken down. Imagine a balloon that's breaking down, and you push into it, it expands it. That's what we've been doing, okay? That's what we've been doing. That's why we help people. That's why massage therapy could help people. You know, as they push into things, physical therapy, it's increasing blood supply and so forth and so on. So a lot of people have been pushing in the balloon. The question is that there's more than one balloon. That's the issue, okay? So we're not one balloon, okay? And Dr. Gregory said, hey, we're two balloons. We're the head and the neck. Okay, but I'm going to show you that looking at this thing, this is an X-ray right here of one of my patients, and you'll see most of you that look at upper cervical that haven't looked at, this is a plain line. I don't know what it says. This is an older film. It's 12 millimeters over there. I know who this patient is. This is like a 12/16 plane line. The lower angle is 18.5. The angle up top here is right 3.5 laterality. And the head is bending over. So look, the head is bending over to the right. The neck's kicking out. Okay, excuse me. The head's bending over to the left. The neck is bending over from up. Okay, it's bending over to the right. Okay. So if you look at this space between here and here, it's short between the head and the neck. Well, if we turn this person over, and this is C1, and we adjust this person, let's say on the left, okay, we're going to go into that bend. All right. Is that a good thing? Think of that, this thing right here. We're going to go right into that. What's it going to do to this and what it's going to do to that? It's going to collapse it. So number 2 spot would not be good. However, if we turned them over and adjusted them on the other side, okay, on the left side, okay, I mean on the right side, if we adjusted them here, this number 2 would be a great spot because as it would come down, it would pop this thing wide right open. It's like you're pushing down on a V. A TP, you push down, it spreads the bottom, and it gets it nice and straight. All right. So the thing to learn from this is that there are certain places that we can push that collapse things, and certain things that don't collapse things. And we're not two balloons. Okay. we are actually 3 and possibly 4 balloons. So what I have been able to do to this point is integrate, because the 4th one may not be a balloon, it just is it's the low hip on this side. So we have these 3 balloons, balloon 1, the head, balloon 2, the neck, balloon 3, the shoulder to the pelvis, and they sit on these cockeyed legs. Okay? So the goal is to be able to now look at this thing and say, hey, if there's multiple balloons, and we have certain balloons that are opposing each other, we got a head that's left, okay? We got a neck that's right. We got a shoulder that's right. We got a hip that's left. We got weight that's here. We got weight that's there. We got a shoulder rotation that's this, a pelvis rotation like that. How do we feed that into the computer? And how does it tell me how to release this thing? What's the sequence of releasing that tension appropriately that, number one, I release it as well as possible, and I do it in synergy with the body so I never shorten anything? How do we do that? And it's more complicated than just pushing, say, the atlas, or looking at sections like Dr. Gregory did, or something like that, or looking at C1 and C2 because it's rotated, but actually looking at the whole human body and understanding these relationships. And that's the place where I'm at now, and I'm going to talk to you about some of these relationships tonight, okay? And that's what we're going to pin down, because that's what I was working on in Mod 3. I just couldn't see it all, okay? And it just has been pretty cool. So the human body is these 3 balloons, and you got your pelvis, you got your neck, and you got your head. And every time we push in, remember, this is like a big rubber band all the way around, okay? We've got 3 big rope rubber bands, that kind of thing, all right? And if we just had one and I just pushed here, okay, I can't make this turn around, but I think I could do this, actually. Hold on. If I put force into here, right, like this, forget these balloons over here. Forget this one and forget that one. Let's just start with one balloon. If I put force into this arrow right here, what I do is I create tension that moves in this direction. Does everybody see that? And I create tension on the bottom side of, say, somebody's laying down. This is somebody laying in side posture. And create tension all the way to here. So as I push down, if this was a balloon, okay, all this tension would come this way, and that tension would come that way. And around, and this would get taut up to this point. Everything would pull together. Fair enough? If you hold a rubber band and you push down into it, they approximate where you're pushing. Is everybody okay with that point? Okay, good. Well, the question then becomes, where do we push in the neck to always release this, okay, which is the bottom balloon, B3, I call it shoulders to pelvis, which we always will do, because no matter where I push, anywhere in the neck here, if I put a force in here, part of the neck, or here, no matter what, all this comes this way, and all that comes this way, to wherever the arrow is. Is everybody okay with that? So the 3 balloons act as one balloon. So why do we have to use the neck? Okay, first of all, why can't we use the head? It's the highest point, it would give us best mechanical, because you can't push into the head, it's got a bone underneath it. So you can't get any push into the rubber band. So the neck, because of all its attachments to the occiput, to a C1, C5, C7, gives us an ability to not just always release the balloon this way upward at either side. So if we're on the right side up, the balloon is always decompressing, which is very important because that's the whole section. Look at any full spine from the shoulders to the pelvis, the whole thing's collapsing. It'll collapse on the right, it'll collapse on the left. So QSM3 is dedicated to releasing, trying to erase this, is releasing that bottom part all the time, always in the correction. The question has become, where is the neck? okay? And the neck is the thing that makes us consider where we touch in the neck, okay? Do I touch it here? 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 Where do I touch it in the neck? We'll talk about that in Dallas. And there's a concept of C5. Okay, it's fascinating because what I can see now is anywhere I am on either side, I call like the easy button, there is one point somewhere in the neck on this side, and when then I flip them over on the other side, if I do adjust them on the other side, okay, there is one point that goes in and actually releases the whole misalignment perfectly from that side. And you have one on either side. And I can see where they are, and I see that in Dallas. 1 point on either side. So when you understand the 3 balloon concept, okay, you understand you always need to decompress the bottom balloon. Why? Because it's always compressed. The thing that you want to do is you want to make sure you push on the neck on either side, wherever you're pushing. You want to push on either side that does not collapse the neck and doesn't collapse the head. Now, sometimes you collapse the head, it doesn't matter because the head is really a non-fixating joint, C0 to C1. It's just gravity. So if you get everything straight up underneath it, the head will pop up. Guaranteed. The head's a waste of time. Okay? So if we understand this picture, when a person is laying down and we understand where the neck is and what we're trying to do, then we got a happening chance. Okay? So the release point and understanding tension of this model here is a key piece to QSM3. We never want to shorten anything. We don't want to just collapse something just because I said, oh, I want to fix the head. There is a point on either side from a tension model and 3 balloons that actually makes everything happen. And then there is, okay, specific release points that get to do that. Okay, so the first thing that we do is we measure. This is the way the new postural listing is going to look. This is where it begins. Michael Pulcinelli, you are going to love this, I promise you. Okay, this is the new listing. You need to write it this way. Brad, don't send me anything that doesn't look like this.
Okay.
Okay, so this is, I stopped doing leg checks in the office. And the reason I don't do leg checks is I want to see people standing in posture, in weight bearing. I want to see the low hip. The low hip is the original trauma. That's the low hip. You could use a PMD. You can use your lasers to just point them at the hips. You don't need the front crosshatch. Bring the lasers down, put them on the hip. You can see them. You can look at the belt. You can see it if you don't have a PMD. You can look at the belt if you have a PMD. You can see where people's pants are. Just have them lift their shirt up, or you lift it up, but just enough to see the belt line, and everybody's belt's going to be cockeyed. Okay? The side of the low hip. This next letter is the fixed point. What that is the relationship, the fixed point. It's the relationship to the vertebral prominence to L5. Okay? It is not where the fixed point is off center on the PMD. It is not a number. It is a relationship. So if I have a L5 and I put the crosshatch laser on, and you have a PMD, and I have a crosshatch laser and I put it on the L5 with my finger right in the center of the spine, if the vertebral prominence is to the right of that, it's called an R. If it's to the left of it, it's called L. Fair enough, gentlemen that have the PMD? Okay, this is the low shoulder. Visual or PMD? Visual or PMD, visual or PMD, visual PMD. Low hip, fixed point, low shoulder. Okay? This relationship right here is the relationship of the trauma to the compensation. That's why I put it up front. Andy, did you have something you were asking me? I didn't see.
No, I just love it.
Okay, so this is the relationship. So guys, what has QSM now become? It is now a technique, a method that actually is coordinating not just the trauma, but the neurological response of the human body. You know what you call that? It's functional neurology. So chiropractic and functional neurology together under gravity over time. We're going to see it. It's freaking unbelievable. Okay, so low hip, fixed point. Again, a fixed point is not on the PMD where it is if it's right or left. It's its relationship to L5. Okay? And just for fun and giggles, I was trying to figure out why is there a fixed point and what is the fixed point? Because you can have guys, I'm just going to step off to mod 2, 3, 4 and for a moment. But you can have somebody that is leaning off to the right, but the fixed point goes over to the left and the shoulder stays on the right. Or you could have a fixed point. Think about the fixed point can go right and the shoulder can drop right. The fixed point can go right and the shoulder can drop left. Or you can have a fixed point that goes left and the shoulder drops right, or a fixed point that goes left and the shoulder drops left. So these numbers are a relationship to the way that the body compensates, and I see that now, and I understand what each of them do. So low hip and the relationship to this is the neurological response. If one of these is opposite this, it's compensated. That's going to be my rule for now. There is a comma here, Brad. Make sure you use proper punctuation. Low hip, fixed point, low hip, low shoulder. Low hip, fixed point, low shoulder. Okay. So you guys are popping up some questions. They're coming up for a second and they're leaving. If you want to ask me a question, do it verbally because I can't talk and read. This is, so just jump in if you got a question, even when I'm not breathing. This is the weight. This is the rotation of the shoulder. That's the rotation of the hip. Comma. So now what we're going to get to is this is the low hip. This is its neurological response. This is the side of the weight. And this is an important thing because we already know the relationship between the low hip and the weight. What do we call that? A basic pattern. Well, if it's on the left side, it's not. It's a jam pattern. Why is that important? Because it'll change the algorithm. So the algorithm is going to be specific to the relationship of the trauma, to the relationship of the neurology, to the relationship of multiple traumas and time and gravity based on the weight, its collapse, and how the neck and head are integrated into it. That's what this is. Neck and head. Low hip, trauma, neurological response, where it sits in space and what frontal plane, how it's collapsing, which is the twist. Is it coplanar? Is it not? And then what is the head, the neck and the head doing? Nowhere on the planet can I have a conversation about this, okay, and how it relates to this, okay, except you guys. Thousands of people looking at that, and they say Atlas is L5. So where we go from here is this postural listing and is to understand it. Now we got to understand the stuff that we're looking at. So we've been on this quest of, and the first thing that I had to figure out is, I come from land of this is the Atlas. So I had to get 205 bones and the sections, and understand just what they were. And then put a model that wrapped them all together called tensegrity. And then we've had a flow chart of this trauma and this compensation neurology and then how the body collapses over time. Now what we need to do is look at this thing and understand the relationships. And the more we understand the relationships, then the better we can correct it. Because we'll understand the way that the whole story of that broken down body. Nothing like it. Nothing like it. Okay. So these relationships, there's relationships to the low hip and the compensation. Think about that. If you have a low hip, it goes off to the left, where should the body compensate? Okay? What weight? There's a relationship to the low hip and the weight. There's a relationship to the weight and the compensation. And then there are patterns to those. And then there's the algorithm that's going to go with them. So the way that I'm going to present this in Dallas is very simple. I'm going to present it with everything that I just showed you, and then I'm going to show you the patterns, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, and then I'm going to walk you through the measuring and every single thing that goes with those patterns so you'll know exactly where to put your hands and touch and the patient placement and the headpiece placement. So the release point, so it'll all flow for people that are just starting this and saying, okay, do this, do this, do this, to others that are, much further along that have the understanding of why it's occurring and understanding the 3 dimensions of the human body while you're adjusting them. Because that's really where we got to get to. So, the place where I'm experienced is in where I touch them on that one side, I'm seeing the whole thing 3-dimensionally. And then what I have to do from a static and a dynamic restorative motion into the myofascial envelope, which is just freaking blowing me away. And understanding what levers to use, because there are some levers to use. I should, meaning what stops I should use, not levers. And what paths do I follow? And that's cool. So we understand at a very high biomechanical level with a model of tensegrity and understanding the relationships of the 3-4 balloon, so to speak, and understanding how to measure it, how to come into the neck so that we release the neck and always release everything below it and do it synergistically with the neck on both sides. And now understanding these relationships. And now that we understand these relationships and I have a place where I'm at is, the low hip to the compensation is what I call a neuro. I just call it a neuro, okay? So one of the things that's happening, and a lot of you will appreciate this, is if the body goes off center, let's go back to the flow chart, okay, for just a moment. Let's go back to flow. What happens first? It traumatizes. What happens second? Trauma is the weight. It goes off center. So the weight that goes off center is the last thing that we fix, okay? The second to last thing that we fix is the compensation. The first thing that we fix is the collapse, which is the decompressing this thing and getting that twist out of it, which is we measure in the shoulders and the pelvis. So the rotation of shoulder and pelvis, the rotation anything of the body is collapse, and its bending, okay, is a collapse. It's a spiral, okay? So we get that out. So we get the spiral out, the compression out, then we get the neurology out, and then we get the original weight, the trauma. Okay, so when we get into this, I know I love to bounce around. It makes Michael happy. Okay, is the compensator working? Because we have no business correcting the frontal plane and the original trauma if the neurology is not working. We have to get the neurology working first. Okay, so if we have somebody that is a right low hip and their fixed point is to their right, and their shoulder is bending to the right, are they neurologically responding correctly? And the answer is no. So we need to be able to treat that misalignment the way we used to treat a jam, so to speak, a different way. Okay? And then I started checking that out, and I started adjusting them with the bow side up. And it was working better. It's like, okay. So there's a neurological component, and it just led me down the road to understanding there's 2 compensators. There's the fixed point, and there's the shoulder, okay? So if you look at this person here, here's the fixed point here. It looks like I can't tell if it's straight. It looks like it may be to the left, but look at the low shoulder is down on the right. Well, if you look at this one is definitely right here to this, and the shoulder is low. So if you got a low hip on this side, and this is fixed points to to the same side and the shoulders to the same side, is it neurologically responding? And the answer is no, this is not neurologically responding. So we got to fix that first. And I had that awareness, and I started dabbling with that, and I started changing the algorithms around. And when I did that, I stopped with position 1 being first, and I started with the bow side up, and I went to position 3. So I realized, and that started working. So neurologically, I started releasing and looking at patients and releasing them neurologically with a bow side up for the ones that were neurologically responding. And we're going to go through this in Dallas, okay? Because it's simple, and we're going to talk about this a little more now here too. I still got a little time. Any questions up to this point?
Just one more. Where are you looking at measuring L5 on the fixed point?
Say that again?
Where are you measuring, how are you determining which way L5 went when you're looking at that in relationship to the VP?
No, it's where the VP went to the L5.
And where on L5? Just in the middle?
Where do you think?
Palpate the spinous.
What do you think?
Spinous.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. And where do you think the VP is? What is the VP? It's another spinous. Spinous to spinous. So, Brad, I just stick my finger in the gully and then put the crosshatch of the PMD right on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, these tools are invaluable. I mean, you can't have the best patient care without the necessary tools. Okay, so, but just remember, Brad, that's not right or left and that kind of thing. Okay, so let's look at some patterns here for just a moment, okay? I did 34 slides so far. Okay, so we only got a couple left. Thank God. So you could just see, I'm just giving you some concepts. I gave you a lot of philosophy tonight, but writing the listing like this. So we've got a right low hip, and the fixed point is to the right. Is that compensating or not compensating?
It's not compensating.
Thank you. If they're the same, it's not compensating. The shoulder dips down on the left. I mean, think of something leaning to the right, and the shoulder bends down on the left. Is that compensating or not compensating?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so good. So is this person compensating? The answer is yes, because one of those letters is opposite the low hip. It's compensating. Fair?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So the weight on this one is on the right. Okay? So this is important because this is the relationships that we're going to look at. And this relationship where the person is compensating and the weight is on the side of the low hip is going to have an algorithm that looks like this. And I'm not really interested, tonight is not to tell you why the algorithm's like that and what the algorithm is, because I just want to annoy you and I want to see you in a month and make you come to the conference because it's going to be freaking great, okay? So this is this algorithm. So I now have this type of misalignment. Okay, and the reason is that it's important is because if you don't set this person up correctly based on where their neck and head are on the headpiece placement and understand the proper release point, you're going to create a problem. So I don't want you to do half the deal here, okay? What I'm trying to do is giving you some ideas. So this is a person that has a low hip on one side and the weight is on the same side. It's a basic misalignment. So just like the short leg and the weight were on the same side, the low hip and the weight are on the same side. Okay, and it's compensating because the shoulder is tipping back to the left. And so it's basic and compensating. Very simple. The algorithm will tell you that you should do it like this. You will adjust this person on one side, statically, dynamically, and by the way, in both rotations. I adjust every single person on both rotations. Okay? And just to wet your whistle even more for Atlanta, is the anterior is the static and the posterior is the dynamic. Okay, so I release all the misalignment statically on the anterior aspect. That's the TPs. I release everything dynamic, restoring the motion into the whole myofascial envelope after I correct the static part of it, take the cast off, now work the joint. Okay, and you gotta do not work dynamically until after the conference because you will hurt somebody if you don't listen to me for a good hour or two on that. All right, so this is one here. I have a low hip on the right and the fixed point's left. And once I see that one of these is like this, I know it's compensating. Okay? So it's compensating. So, but the weight is on the opposite side. This now becomes an RP13 with the proper release point and static and dynamic release. This one is not compensating, and the weight is all on one side. This guy is just hanging off a cliff. You see it? Everything's to the right. Low hip on the right, low shoulder on the right, fixed point to the right, 20 pounds on the right. Everything's over to the right, okay, except the head and neck. The head and neck are bending back. A lot of stress up in that head and neck, right? And that low back just holding this thing up also. This person's taken as an RP3. So this person is now, this pattern is now one headpiece. This pattern is now one headpiece. This pattern is two headpieces on both sides, okay? All of them at their easy button. One place, releasing it all. That's kind of true. Working towards one place, releasing them all. Because I work the whole neck on everybody. Understanding the direction to go to it, that release point. And this is really easy to show you. I mean, most of you that have been coming, man, you'll just pick that up in like no time. All this will get picked up. That's why you're already picking up a lot of it. This one right here is somebody that's not compensating, but the weight's on the other side. So this person's been right, and then this person's had a big blow on the right side and jammed them over to the left side. You see this misalignment right here? This is a mean misalignment. Right, trauma, not compensating. How many traumas to do that? And then let's smash the whole thing. One more big trauma right into the head on the right side, jam it all, the whole thing, bend it, squash it down, and jam it into the left side. Another thing no other method is even looking at is the relationship to all these things. And I could look at this postural listing right here and not only tell you how to fix it, but tell you where it has stress and have a full conversation about a whole human body because it takes into account everything. Where's the structure originally damaged? Where's it responding in the two places that it could respond? Where's it sitting in the frontal plane? Where's the rotation? How is it collapsing? Is it coplanar or not? And how much is it collapsing? What is the head and neck doing? And now an algorithm that understands not only where to touch it, but a placement that where to touch it, and to release everything as 3 tensegral balloons that open and never shorten. In a dynamic approach that not just releases statically, but dynamic motion into the myofascial system. Okay, any questions? Because I'm about done. Okay, so let me just tell you a little bit about this lady. So this lady came in, first of all, this is not a conversation I put up tonight on the upper cervical site that I'm going to show you a film from a office of an upper cervical doctor. He's president of a technique. And this lady has been his front office manager or front office desk, whatever she's been working there for a couple years. She's had such an amazing experience, okay, which is amazing, and that's awesome. And I'm not taking away from this because I'm not making him small. He's awesome, okay? Okay, what I'm saying is I want to show you another way to look at things. That's all I care about, that you hear that. And she's had such an amazing experience that she's going to chiropractic school. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay? So kudos to that person. All right? So she heard about me and she came in, and this is what I showed her. And I'll show you her posture listing, and I'll show you the misalignment. So this was her upper cervical film. She has 12 millimeters of high plane line. She has a left 5 laterality. The head's tipped off to 6. Okay, the lower angle is 2 3/4. Okay, now just looking at this, you can see everything's leaning off right. Look at the rotation. This is an arrow up here, by the way. I was showing her. This arrow is coming down on her head because of why. Look at that bend in her neck. You see that? This whole thing is collapsing, okay, because this misalignment. I'll show you this misalignment. You'll see what it's doing. Okay, So you see this bend in this neck? Okay, and then there's a twist. So conventional wisdom would say left side, push that atlas down with a high plane line. Isn't that right, doctors? Mm-hmm. If you've been to upper cervical work, you're going to come in high here. You got 12/16 of plane line. That in itself is frickin' 4 inches. Okay? You got C over A. You got nothing on the angle. Okay? C over A on that thing, just looking at it, is at least a 1. You're up 5 inches. You know, they teach a 5.5 because they say, man, that's about as far as you're going to go, which isn't true, but average. So that's at the top of the limit. Aren't I right, doctors that did this? Okay? So this person, you would just push down, and they want to drive that plane line down, and that's what I did. Okay? But look what's underneath this thing on that left side. Look at that bend. If I put force into that transverse, is that going to bend it further? So I want to show you the listing on this person. This is why we do and I do what I do. Okay, so I want to explain her misalignment. This is her posture listing. Okay, this is actually her misalignment, but I want to understand just from how it happened in a very remedial way, because I don't understand it, because I haven't been there her whole life. I could just see the effect of it, okay, and try to put some language to it. So she has a right short low hip. She has a right fixed point. So here's the L5, Brad, here's the spinous, and here's the spinous of the fixed point. It's off to the right side because here's right. Okay? You're looking at their back. Okay, the shoulder is low. There it is. Everybody see that? Okay, you can all see the atlas. Here's the atlas all tipped up at 12/16 of plane line. Okay? But she's got left weight, guys. And the head and the neck are right. There they are. So how do you put everything right, and go to the left? Is that she's had, this isn't just the first trauma. You don't go right, and have neurological deficit because this person is neurologically not compensated. Okay? So you have multiple traumas. We can't call this the first trauma. We call this the first dozen traumas. How's that? Then there is the last trauma or another trauma that hit her on the left side and jammed this thing all the way over so it bowed like that and bent this atlas and everything up in the head even more. Think about that. Go stand up, lean all the way over to the right, and then smack yourself on the right side of your head and drive yourself into the left. And that's what she felt like. And this is the correction on that left side that's doing that. That is not okay. You know why that's not okay? Because I know better now. And once we know better and it's out in the universe, it's not okay. It's not okay. This is, guys, this is the vision of what we stand for. This girl, I have tears in my eyes. This girl right here. We owe that to them. We tell them we can do something. I don't give frickin' deals in my office. There is no practice management in my office. Zero. There is only one practice management. That right there. And that's this. One adjustment yesterday. That. There is no one on the planet that can do that. Except us. No one. No one. She came to club tonight at the office. She came to the club. And you know what she said? My life has changed. She said that to the club. This is the way I feel. 2 years of adjusting. You can, look at the bent. Look at this neck. Look at this freaking thing. Look at that. You imagine if we could do that all the time. Imagine if we could do that all the time. I can't do that all the time. I'm not universal intelligence, so I can't do that all the time. But that's what we stand for, is how can we do that all the time? And the only way to do that all the time is to be able to start looking at these things and understanding them. It's so simple. We have to move the mountain. This is what we stand for, guys. This is it, man. There should be thousands of people on this call. There should be thousands of patients in our office because we have something that nobody else has. We have an understanding how to restore and change the most stressful detriment to the health on the planet. It's not gluten, and gluten makes a whole lot more money than we do. It's crazy. So, you know, I ask you to join me do that. This is the purpose of us. I ask you to tell others to do that. Guys, at some point, you got to step. And I made a decision at one point that I was going to change relationships, okay, so that I can serve better. And you're not here on this call because it's negligible. You're here because you resonate with it. And it's time to get others involved and create. I mean, I see on Upper Cervical Facebook site, the revolution. The evolution. There's evolution, there's revolution. It's unbelievable. They don't exist there, neither one of them. We understand this, we measure it, we understand how to release it, we change lives, okay? We change lives, and it's hard. It's hard, man. I have troublemakers in my office. It's hard. People don't just bounce like this. This lady was ready to roll, okay? So, you know, we have an algorithm, and it changes, okay? And it's based on trauma. It's based on a neurological response. It's based on compression. It's based on time. There's 4 balloons, and they have relationships, 3 to 4. Okay, we look at tensegrity, which is the most contemporary way to look. People that are looking at this, like Donald Ingber, Wise Institute, PhD, MD, Harvard, okay? Guys that are reaching out that are saying, man, no, we're not levers. We're not conventional wisdom. This is the way we're made. And if he says that he's trying to figure out that we're made that way, okay, and universal intelligence did make us that way, it's our job to restore that. And Gregory was onto that. So that's what my vision is for me to take this and where Gregory left off, the two balloons, and add in the other 2. And I have done that, okay? And there's a relationship that makes this all happen, and they're all interconnected through that myofascial envelope, okay? So, this is the Dallas schedule, okay? You should be there, others should be there. We should have a filled house. There is no excuse. Every time you walk in and you tell your patient you're going to help them and you take money on a care plan with them, okay? And this seminar is the answer to that question and the path to that happening better and resonating higher. And the next one will also be another answer. Okay, so what we're doing is the way we set it up is we're having one room. Okay, it starts at 2 o'clock. Mod 1 runs 2 to 5. Mod 2 starts at 6. I suggest that you come to Mod 1 anyway because it's all the new information like how to write the algorithm. What's the new algorithm? How to write the posture listing. How to understand tension. You can't miss that anyway. I don't care who you are. I can't miss it. Okay? Allie's not missing it, she just said. And then going through it more intensively from 6 to 9. Then from 9 to 10, we have people like Brad Hirschhorn and Dr. Connor get up and do some vision and philosophy and have some open forum there, get some brotherhood, get some green book action. So Friday night is filled with understanding the laws of posture and tensegrity and understanding tension and understanding how to write an algorithm and understanding the concepts that we talked about tonight. Then Saturday morning, what we're going to do is we're going to do some review, and then it starts where we look at some relationships for a couple hours, and then for about 5 hours, we do only hands-on. Brad Hirschhorn is going to be in his glory. Okay? Basically 5 hours, even in the morning, we go right into connectivity, okay? Relationships, more connectivity, and then Dr. Lazar is going to close us out at 5 o'clock to 6 with some ideas and understanding how to take care of people better in our office and to serve better, okay? We're going to get to dinner. We're going to do some more adjusting on Sunday. Dr. Yoshi is going to teach a class on some extremity adjusting based on global assessment in QSM3. So if you start looking at the global body, guess what happens? Some shoulders and knees and those kind of things have been direct damaged and they need to be integrated. So some people can't be stable. So from a global assessment, he's going to talk about, because he loves extremities, is how he uses it with QSM3 with the QSM3 philosophy. Not on every visit, but how to integrate those things if you see them so that people aren't stabilizing. You can evaluate other areas to say, hey, I could see why this domino is not in place and I need to restore it. And I'll give you an example. You have a PMD and everybody, they're coming up to center nicely. The shoulders are clearing, but the pelvis is off rotated 10 millimeters. That is what's the word that I want, is a red flag for somebody that is not integrated. And you may not be able to get that without a localized bump because that fascia needs it. That doesn't mean you do that all the time, because I'm a vitalist, okay? You don't, but you do have to integrate it sometimes because of a direct trauma. So from a global assessment, you can see that, okay? Not just a muscle test and a localized understanding of what's going on. Oh, your ulna is this way, or your radius is that way. Oh, your shoulder is this or that. You're seeing it globally. So big changes. I'm going to be teaching probably 99% of the classes because this is all new information and the way that I'm going to put it together. So Friday night is a good night of biomechanics and philosophy. Saturday is cleaning it up, getting a lot more detailed for a couple hours, and then we're starting to work on people and applying that to the release points, understanding about the C5 and what it does below C5, above C5, and static and dynamic corrections. Okay. My last thing I'm going to tell you about is this piece right here, because it's the last one. This is our conference schedule for next year. Okay, and what we're doing is we're going to be having a couple Mod 1 intensives like we used to do, where I used to go to schools and teach out in a hotel and get 10, 20 people and off we go. So we're going to have 2 of those a year, okay? We're going to move Mod 3 tour into November, okay? And we're going to have our 2 Mod 1-2 schedules, which is going to be 1 classroom in the format like I just showed you, where we're going to feed right in. Mod 1 starts earlier. Mod 2 people could show up later if they want to. I don't suggest it because you're going to get things here that you're not going to hear here, or you'll miss it, or you'll whatever. So if you're able to make it earlier, I know it's sometimes a travel, so I set it up this way, and off we go. Okay, so questions. God, I've been talking since 8 o'clock this morning. Holy mackerel, my head hurts. Come on, man. What do you think about that film, man? Anybody got anything to say about it? It was yesterday.
Let's go to Dallas right now.
Nobody has nothing to say. Okay. Then I'll say goodnight. All right, good night, everybody.
Wait. Hey, thank you, Russ.
Hold on. What?
Russell, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, great. One of the questions that I have is, in Mod 3, we talked a lot about headpiece placement,
Right.
especially dropping the head down. Are we still doing that with these new algorithms?
Yeah, so what I'm going to show you, and yes, the answer is yes, okay? What is even more accentuated is the way that I place the skull on the headpiece. I'll put somebody in 3 positions, Michael, depending on where the neck and head are related, okay? So if the head and the neck and I really don't tip headpieces too much. I usually keep them flat, okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, if the head is like, if I got the right side up and the head is tilted right, I'll drop it down a little bit. It just gives you a little bit more mechanical advantage. But if everything is on one side, okay, you stay with a low headpiece and you stretch that bottom leg, okay? So if you want to release that side and you come all the way up, 3-2 all the way up, anchoring at C5 because that's where shelf is, and to release it. So the answer is yes. Okay, so low headpiece and bring them up to just above the occiput is about a ½ inch above the bottom support. If just the opposite, with let's say the neck is opposing the head. So say I have a right side up and the neck is left, I will put almost the forehead on the the side above the eye, like on the temple, on the bottom support. Okay? You got to be careful with that. Okay? But that's where all your power is, man. And that's when I start bending the dynamic. Okay? So the answer is yes, I still keep it low. One of the misalignments that is one side, you need to raise the headpiece because you got to clear the bow first. Okay? So that's the one where it's a 1. The 1's telling you that the bow is down. Okay, so you got to clear that one first. So we'll get to some of those things, but yeah, we're keeping those things, and I'm just accentuating them. There's different positions based on whether you're going after the static or the dynamic. Okay, we're going to talk about in Dallas. Okay, static. Do you want tension or do you want it relaxed? If you want dynamic, do you want a tension or relaxed? Do you think about that? It's a bit simple to work through those things. So there's different ways that I position the head and neck based on what I'm working on, static or dynamic, and then where the release point is, and then moving the head up and down so that you use it to bend the spine or not bend the spine. Okay? It's really cool. The whole thing comes together like beautifully. Okay? I wish I had Mod 3 tomorrow. So anything else?
Did you say that you're not just making...
I only heard,
Okay.
Did you just say?
Did you say that you're just now doing one contact point on each side? I might have misunderstood.
No, okay. So this is Roger?
Yes.
Hey, Roger. So here, man, this is, okay, look, life is not so simple, okay? But the answer is yes, but no, okay? And I'll tell you what I mean by that, okay? And so I get, one of the things that I do is I try to give you guys too much information, okay? And it gets crazy sometimes because it seems simple to me, and I feel like, and the reason I do that is because, I don't want you to miss out on this piece that I want to tell you about that I find so fascinating, and it messes everything up. So the answer is this. There is one place that you can go ahead and release everything from, yes. However, because tension is not a point, okay, but a line and a multitude of lines, you can get to some of these anchors and drive to that point, I to S, A to P, P to A, S to I, A to P, and to those points, almost like I'm grabbing a rubber band and pulling it to tension to that point. Do you follow me, Roger?
Yes.
Until it snaps. Okay, so when I grab the rubber band, okay, it's well before that point. My target, though, is that point, and I drive to it. And then when I get to the end of it, whether it's static or dynamic, I release it a certain way so that tension line snaps, okay? So you can't adjust somebody on a point because you have to release tension. And to release tension, you need a dynamic motion. So there's a start point and an end point. That end point is that easy button, so to speak. But the start point is going towards it and understanding what the neck is doing in relationship to what you're doing. Are you working the weight? Are you working the bow? What's down below on the other side? Is there anything important on the other side? And moving the thing around and accentuating your line of drive to release all that. That I can do. Okay, and that's what I want to give you. Okay, but you got to start with you got to start at point and play sometimes. You got to start with with a crayon. So I want to say yes, but and some people can gather just the yes part, and then other people that have been hanging with me a little bit, they'll get the yes plus. And, people that have been hanging a little longer, they'll get the yes plus plus plus, until tomorrow when I add another plus, okay? Okay, so that's the scoop. Okay, so what else?
Hey, Russell,
Yes, sir.
how are you defining the difference between the static release and the dynamic release here?
What do you mean by that? How do I define it? Okay, so
You're talking about the road. You're talking about adjusting the anterior pathway statically and the posterior pathway dynamically to release the body.
Okay, because chiropractic is beautiful. It's amazing how I said truth is truth, right? So, it's amazing how remember I said in the beginning of this thing, I said, like, when you use the word tone, okay, that they used, okay, with that Ingber used the word tone. Where does he know that word from? D.D. Palmer used that, in 1895, okay? Here it is in 2016, tone. I mean, where does that get? Because the universe just, intersects. So there was a time when we just talked about fascia. And then I realized, because I felt I feel tension and I couldn't go through it. So I realized that I needed some depth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I went into that depth and I went against the body and I lost 3 patients. I already told many of you, you've heard the 3 patient story. Okay, I got wise to it after 3. Okay, and started doing some different things. So there are releases that allow you to release against normal ranges of motion. Those are static. Okay. When we go into the normal ranges of motion, especially like P to A, okay, that's the way things go, right? P to A. How do we adjust P to A in chiropractic? P to A. BJ adjusts P to A, okay? Everybody on a flat bench gets adjusted P to A. Everybody. Okay, so the motion is in the P to A because we follow the joint range of motion. Well, we're able, from understanding the free balloon and tensegrity and how it's related, that when we go into those points that we can feel the anchor and understanding the direction that we have to release them based on the normal ranges of motion. So P to A is dynamic and A to P is static. Okay, so I release everybody A to P up to TPs first, and I twist those TPs. Along anterior and then I to S. I go A to P, I to S, and I torque them all up, okay? And it depends on where I stop and where I may go S to I, depending on where the neck is.
Right.
And then I change the position completely for dynamic motion because the static motion needs to be brought everything to tension because you don't have much to play with. So if you've got an anterior shoulder and you're in the front, man, you push that shoulder way back in I to S, that when you spin that TP, which is where that tendon and that muscle group hits, okay, it's not the TP, that's where the tendon is, you can take it to its furthest range of motion on the bony prominence. Okay, that's the backstop that you use. We've been doing that in chiropractic forever. But now we relate it to the myofascial envelope. It's just different. It's chiropractic with myofascial, with neurology. Well, then I change positions to create a very dynamic approach and go into the human body and into the back of the neck, all the way back along the spinuses and into it S to I or I to S, above the C5 and down to it, or above C5, depending where I'm at, based on the relationship of what I'm working on. Like, where's the weight? Where's the bow? What side am I on, and where's the neck? That's what I do.
Gotcha.
Okay?
So it's about depth. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got to just follow it. Are there any other questions? It's the most fascinating thing in our work, man. It's awesome. So.
And when did you decide looking at these relationships?
I was looking at them. I've been looking at them since the beginning. The first one started with a basic and a jam, right?
When did you add the new piece?
When did I add it?
Yeah.
Probably the day after you walked out of my office last. And the reason is because let me give you a little piece of history. Yeah. There was about 6 months ago, a year ago, whatever it was, there was a time where I said, we need to adjust on the side of the weight. And then I said, no, we need to end on the side of the bow. Remember, we used to do a 1-3-1. We used to go back to the weight, 3 headpiece positions, and I said, no, we need to end on the side of the bow. Well, some people didn't come to center, and I did a 1-3 on them, and I had to turn them back over. Okay? So when the algorithm doesn't work, okay, I have to look at different relationships. And that's when I started looking at, okay, what relationships do I get to look at here? Okay, and we have a relationship to the way that it's compensating, and then what's compensating and what they're doing, and then the weight. These are the relationships, okay? So we didn't have the whole picture, and I got the whole picture now on these relationships. Is there another one that's going to come up? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure there's something else. But we got the rotation, we got the static and dynamic, we got the neck, we got the head, we've got the neurology, we've got the trauma, we've got the frontal plane that it's in.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think we'll just keep cleaning this up.
I've always thought the fixed point should be part of the algorithm somehow. You made it part of the listing for a long time, and it's awesome to see it being used.
Well, you know what? Dr. Gregory is the one that started with the fixed point. I already told you, and I will keep telling you, there's no such thing as non-truth.
Right.
Okay, so when he said the fixed point, that was a piece. It's there. We talk about occipital fibers. We talk about C5. We talk about these things. This is all chiropractic. We talk about the low hip. We talk about the short leg. We talk about the way that the body turns. We talk about the tension that's in the body that Dee Palmer feels, that we talk about motion. That Gillet felt, hey, this joint is restricted in motion. Well, we're able to have conversations of putting all that stuff together that nobody has done before.
Yeah.
That's freaking cool. And it's not that they're wrong. They're all right. They're just not big enough. Yep. We just got to keep standing back. But, we got to move the mountain because the mountain is stuck.
Yep.
And the mountain is stubborn. And they'll just, do what they'll do, but that's okay. But, why are there 10 people on here? Because the mountain is stuck. Anyway, that's the way it rolls. So there we go. Any other questions? It's 9:29. I've done my duty. Dallas, tell others, be there, support the organization. It's just got to be, man. You got to do your share to tell others. I tell you, you tell them. It doesn't happen any other way. You need to get on Facebook and let people know. You need to get other doctors and let them know. You need to know students that you may know and connect with them and let them know. It's simple. It's simple. This concept is not, and there's nobody that can argue with this. You can't argue with it. Post or no post. You just can't argue with it.
Love it.
Yep. It even fills the 7, 8, 9, components of the subluxation. It's not just a bone and a nerve. Mm-hmm. We're not a bone and a nerve. Okay, we need to catch up to the things that we're saying. Okay? And one of them is this. All right. Anyway, I'll see you all soon, I hope. God. And if you need anything, just let me know. All right. Night.
Night. Thanks, Russell.
Great night.